Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is your friend and brother Robert W. JoJo Hill, the servant, the artist, and the author, and I'm in the building on the 90. Yeah, yes, you did. Yes. Oh, Lordy. Yeah. Yes. Come on in, y'all. Listen, I want to talk about this Snoop Dogg thing. I wasn't going to do the Snoop story initially. I wasn't going to do this story. I decided to jump into it and fool with it because I've been watching these serious online debates with people that I know, people that are, cool with me and the whole 9 yards. But I'm watching these very interesting debates and people talking about it, and they losing their doggone minds. Let me say this just off the doggone dribble, right off the gate. Let me say this. I wish I had got the call to do the doggone record, because somebody said, would you would have done that record? Absolutely, I would have done that record. Now, I'm going to say why, and I'm going to explain my position in just a moment. But at the onset, let me just go ahead and just put that out there, so nobody be like, well, you just hating. Nope, I'm not hating at all. I wish that mug had called me to do that record. Well, JoJo, would you would have did that record? I would have said, man, listen. So you saying to me that you want me to come all the way to California and do a record with Snoop Dogg? And you want me to do this record with this guy that's been out here, he been doing all this stuff? Man, all I'm saying is, you better have me back by Saturday. That's all I'm saying. Heck yeah, I would have did the record. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to explain to you guys in the show the hypocrisy that we're dealing with. What we're dealing with in the conflict and all the stuff that's coming down the pipe with this Snoop Dogg record, this gospel, this whatever the crap the name of the record is. I think the record is dope as crap. It's a sonically great record, great production. The music is incredible. The artist is sweet. Listen, what we're dealing with here is hypocrisy. We're dealing with hypocrisy. That's the flat out dynamic of it. We're dealing with a system called the so-called church, and the church is filled with such hypocrisy that when they see somebody who comes in who doesn't embrace the hypocrisy, they just walk in as raw as they are, and they get this elevation all of a sudden. They can't take it. People losing their doggone minds. Man, listen, it's called the music freaking business. Gospel music is just a genre of music because most of the people that embrace and employ that system don't actually push or endorse the very stuff that they're talking about. Everybody ain't gonna talk about this crap. People gonna lose their doggone minds. Oh man, JoJo, what you talking about? Listen, let me explain something to you. When you have a system that's filled from its inception with so much deception, that's funny. From its inception, it's filled with so much deception. You're gonna have a perpetual movement or system of things that are rooted in deception. So you can have people that go every week, every Sunday, that sit in a place for 2 to 3 hours sometimes and leave the exact same way that they came every single week. But not for a year, not for 2 years, not for 3 years, not for 5 years, for 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years. People leave the planet in the exact same state. The only thing that they've developed is a regiment of stuff that they just do all the time. It's built and it's based in hypocrisy. So when you have people who are in constant movement, when you have people that are in constant activity, but there's no progress, and then you watch someone who comes into that system and they get immediate progress and movement, it freaks most people out. Now, it's a lot of people in the industry that I will say, a lot of folks wish they could have been a part of that project, myself included. I wish I could have been on that junk, because the thing is, get the check. This is what I got one day when I was in my meditation time. Son, what have you heard about the wealth of the wicked? I said, well, the wealth of the wicked, according to what I was taught, the wealth of the wicked is laid up, stored up for the righteous, for the just. So, this is what I get. So, where have you seen the most wickedness? Well, where I've seen the most wickedness and deception and all those things, I've seen that in church. So, if they have the wealth, if they have the stuff, then go there and get it. You're authorized to do that, because the intention, if we're going to believe, if we're going to subscribe to a righteous God, and again, I've said this in the past, righteousness is not a derivative of the church. The church has caused us to think that it's the root of righteousness. It is not. This is why you have so much jacked up stuff. Think about it from the very conception of it, like all the way back. You're talking about massive pedophilia, homosexuality. You're talking about thievery. You're talking about trickery. You're talking about deception. All these things is right there. So what's happening is the hypocrisy of it is what's driving people nuts. So they're going, we don't understand how did Snoop come in and do this. Man, he's a music guy. He's a mogul. What are you talking about? When you understand that this same system is essentially perpetuated across the board, because most of the people that are on the gospel side that are there, and I'm just going to be honest, most of the people that function on the gospel music side, they really just want to be famous. I'm saying it. I'm sorry. I got friends and I'm in the game. I promise you. I ain't hating y'all or nothing, but I'm telling y'all what the real deal is. People just want to be famous, and anything that can perpetuate the concept of fame, they with it. Like, man, let's go. For me, if Snoop called me for that joint, it would be all about getting the bread. Okay, hey man, I know his checks is probably gonna cash. I've never done nothing in that system that they did not treat me fairly. They always treated me fairly. I only got unfair treatment inside the church, but nobody seems to understand this. But everybody wants to attack this guy like he did some major breach. No, he ain't do no major breach. He came in as doing whatever. Now you start talking about it from a spiritual perspective, you're talking about a whole nother dynamic. But understand, first and foremost, most churches are not spiritual institutions. Most churches that we know are just habitual, habit-based, repetitious, going in circle malark. That's what they are, most of them. It's just what it is. You tell me how many people that you know that have been doing the exact same thing for the exact same way for all these years, and they're getting the exact same results. That's defined as insanity. Now, if you're going to do that, if that's your belief system, man, do what the crap you want to do. Nobody's judging you for that. Do what you want. But don't go nuts on this guy because he came in and did something in the system. Hey, man, you know the people going to come flock into it because they all want to be on that stage. If they could access that stage and not have any backlash, I'm telling you, it would be a mass exodus out of the church. They would get the crap out of there because the first time they had the opportunity to do it, they would dip. I'm telling you, this is absolutely insane. But nobody wants to deal with that. They don't want to face that. Nobody wants to acknowledge it. I happen to be one of those people that I know that I just happen to be tapped on the shoulder from a very spiritual and divine place. I ain't about no doggone religion. I ain't about all that. I can't. I understand that that's a failed system. Everybody say it with me. It is a failed system. The system is failed. Now, if you don't understand that, if you don't recognize it, hey man, you're going to try to bind everybody to the context of a system that's failed. You're dealing with a bunch of hypocrites. You're dealing with a bunch of people that's off. They're like that anyway. It is no different engaging in a vast majority of these so-called gospel artists. It is no different in engaging their system of movement than doing something with freaking a hard rock, punk rock band that jumps off the stage and pour blood on themselves. It really ain't no doggone different. The only difference is they have a cloaking and they're calling it gospel or they're calling it something else. But what they do, their actions, their backdrop, the lifestyle is all based in something different. It's not based in righteousness, because righteousness is not necessarily what's dictating the majority of these organizations and these places, and particularly these doggone churches, and definitely the whole concept of so-called gospel music. Because if you look at it, you have to understand it's just a genre. And if the people could be successful in another area, they would do that. But because they know that they can't, they've been rooted and they've been so deeply trained in one area, they'd rather just stay in that one because for them it's safer. It's a safer place. It's like, well, I can go here, I know the regiment, I know exactly what to do, I know what to say, I can do this, that, and the other, and I can just pull it off and I can get some bread out of it. Hey, and if that's the thing, I don't have a problem with it. I'm not saying that it's bad. I'm just saying understand that it's hypocrisy. The hypocrisy of the church is, or the so-called whatever, I'll say the church, but the hypocrisy of what people are talking about and dealing with as it relates to Snoop and this record, it doesn't even make freaking sense. It doesn't make sense because most of the people function outside of the realm of real righteousness anyway. So if you're talking about this man, he's really no different than this other guy over here. This guy just happens to have on a suit and go to church every week. They pretty much do the same freaking things. Matter of fact, Snoop would probably have a higher level of standard than the people that's sitting in the so-called church. tell me I'm off. Because if you look at it from a very flat perspective and look at it through the eyes of righteousness, fairness, and justness, not church and not religion, not Christianity, take that out of your mind. You have to look at it from a divine place of divine righteousness. And because God is righteous in its purest form, he looks at it like, that guy is no different than this guy. This guy's just more of a hypocrite. This guy says this stuff and he acts like this, but behind closed doors, he acts worse than him. Tell me I'm off. All right, guys, this is your friend and brother, Robert W. JoJo Hill, the servant, the artist, and the author. I want you guys to be encouraged, be empowered, and most of all, be enlightened. Be enlightened, man. Wake the crap up. I wish, the only regret that I have about that doggone Snoop record, that when I looked through the doggone credits, Robert W. JoJo Hill and Joe Fuller Global Media was not on there, because I knew that was a solid check. I ain't going there trying to get no spirituality out of that dude. He's not a spirit. If he's not a righteous guy, he's not a righteous guy. Dude, that has nothing to do with me. When it's time for every one of us to close our eyes for the final times, we have to give account to a righteous God ourselves, not for what anybody else is doing and all that stuff. What's our relationship like with God for real? What is it really like? What is our relationship like with the true and living God? What is that really like? The universal God. What is it like? And if you don't know that, hey man, you just don't know. You're just gonna go right back to any all right this weekend. All right, y'all. I'm out.